This is St Philip's, Caerdeon. It's a church born out of an argument and designed by a man who was a bit argumentative himself. It was designed by the Reverend J.L. Pettit, author of Remarks on Church Architecture, which came out in 1841 and was basically saying that Pugin's Gothic architecture was all wrong. We must not have Pugin's Gothic architecture. We must have, well, anything from the past, really, preferably not Gothic. He lost that argument, as you can probably tell. If you look at any church built in the 19th century, they're pretty much all Gothic. His brother-in-law, Reverend W.E. Jelf, came to Wales to teach Oxford undergraduates at nearby Caerdeon Hall and promptly fell out with the vicar at Llanaba because the services there were in Welsh and he did not want his Oxford students to have to sit through Welsh services that they didn't understand. So he wanted a new church just for them with the services in English. That didn't go down awfully well. This is the Reverend Pettit's sole surviving building. He built a house for himself, but it was demolished afterwards. I can't imagine what it looked like, and I couldn't find out. The ecclesiologist called this something between a large lodge gate and a lady's rustic dairy. They were deliberately rude because they were all pro-Gothic. His aim apparently was picturesque appropriateness. It's certainly rustic, and it is appropriate in that it matches the mountainous landscape. It's somewhat eclectic. It's hard to pin down exactly what its influence is. Inside, it's trying to be a bit Byzantine. Outside, maybe a bit Alpine. I'm not too sure. Maybe there might be a bit of rural French in there as well. He did write Architectural Studies in France, which was published in 1854. Pettit liked a bit of everything. You couldn't pin him down to one particular style. It has a loggia porch on the side. I don't know if this was supposed to provide shelter from the sun and rain for those students to sit and talk theology. Perhaps it did. I can imagine a discussion if this were in Italy in an outside loggia between theology students on the finer points of Aquinas, but in the Welsh climate, not so sure. I think Pettit's aim was to build something very different from the average church being knocked out in the 1860s. This was built between 1861 and 1862. In that, he succeeded. The church is unlocked, but the door can be stiff. Please push hard. Very hard-looking, bare-looking benches. Wow, this is a very obviously Victorian space, but not a pointed Gothic arch in the place, and quite deliberately so. This was designed by a man who hated Gothic. The round arch is okay. A circle is okay. Rectangles are okay. But no points, please. And so the roof looks a bit like a church hall. A bit disappointing. And all the drama is saved for the East End. Thunking great font, very plain. Fussy candlestick, nearly Gothic, but, well, it is a bit, isn't it? Maybe it's not original, or maybe he just couldn't get any church fittings that suited his taste. Keeping with the Byzantine intentions, we have mosaics and not encaustic tiles. And more mosaic in the reredos. Oh my goodness, I just found a Gothic arch. That must be a later import, I think. Interesting looking memorial there. To the glory of God and in memory of his servant Elizabeth Mary Partridge, born June 17th, 1821, died November 23rd, 1897. The reredos was placed in this church All Saints' Day 1900. So the reredos is a later addition. Lectern. Don't know if that's original, but again, the fittings. Maybe he couldn't get fittings that exactly fitted his Byzantine style, but that's really trying hard not to be an ordinary Gothic lectern. I'm failing. And the pulpit doesn't match the building particularly. It could be any pulpit from the latter quarter of the 19th century. But in fact, it's from 1899. A later item. I wonder if there was one here originally and what it looked like. This transept, we have a rather stranded organ, a bit like a beached whale. Some nice stained glass, very colourful, not figurative, and trying really hard not to be even slightly Gothic. Be okay in a mosque, that. The organ is made from the very jolly sounding The Positive Organ Company of London. No negativity in their organs, no. I did actually think this might be a reed organ masquerading as a pipe organ, but in fact it's got all its bits. It really is a pipe organ with a blower on the back called Bob. It's locked, so I can't give you a recital, which is a good thing, as I can't play the keyboard very well. In fact, pretty much at all. Interesting organ stool. Again, round arches. No points here, please. The reading desk carries on the round arch theme. Extremely dark in here. I don't know how much of this video will come out, but hopefully you've got a flavour of the place. It's distinctly odd. I can't say I'm actually really in love with it. Maybe I just miss the pointed arches. And later Victorian stained glass. Again, round arches prevail. Given in memory of Samuel Holland, who entered into rest in 1892, age 90. This window given by his widow. Which makes me wonder what was in the east window originally. If you want to visit, this church is always open because it's in the care of the wonderful Friends of Friendless Churches, a most brilliant charity who keep places like this open. Without them, places like this would be rotting. If you can find it in yourself to support them, I strongly recommend that you do. You get a great magazine and a lovely warm fuzzy feeling that you're doing something to keep these buildings open. Well, it's just started to rain now, so I'll sit in the loggia for a little minute before I attempt the really scary narrow, and when I say narrow, I mean a narrow, lane back down onto the main road. Hint, if you come up here, you will need to engage first gear to get up it. It's hairpin bends and steep. But I have to say, it's worth coming up here because it's just so unusual. And of course, peaceful. Apart from being incredibly steep, Churchyard is populated by an above normal number of people of money who are from England and have posh addresses. Further down, in the cheap seats at the bottom, are the locals. This is very close to a holiday spot, a Victorian holiday spot where people with money came to enjoy the bracing air. Some of them liked it so much they stayed and died here, and here they are today. And it's not a bad spot to be buried.